And Republican politicians can't stand to hear stories about how happy the citizens are in the Scandinavian countries and what great social programs those countries provide for their citizens. You want to know why? Hang out with me today. Welcome. Today's topic is going to be, is Scandinavian happiness fake news? You know, we've all heard Republican politicians keep repeating the word socialism and high taxes whenever they refer to Scandinavian countries, right? Implying that there's no way Scandinavians could really be happy by paying those high taxes all the time. Just remember that when Republicans address their base voters, deception is of paramount importance. So what do? They choose certain trigger words, words they know will create fear in the minds of their voters, their base voters, right? Basically because they want their constituents to associate socialism and high taxes with communism and being ripped off, respectively, right? What they never tell you, though, is that taxes Scandinavian citizens pay, which are, they're higher than American taxes, but they provide for really important social protections for the citizens in Scandinavian countries. Protections that would be way more expensive if paid out after taxes. I'll soon point that out. Okay, so why do Republicans hate those two words, socialism and taxes? Because they don't believe in supporting the common good in America, as in supporting programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, things like that, right? Or worse, more programs like that, right? But why? Because it would require burdening corporations with higher taxes, which would benefit society tremendously, but would also reduce corporate profits. And to Republican politicians, corporate profits have to be protected at all costs. So they keep throwing out those two trigger words to scare their base voters so they won't vote for the Democratic Party, which is a party of social programs, because they try to improve the life of the average American, right? What many Republican voters don't realize is that government social programs will drastically improve their lives, resulting in higher levels of happiness for themselves and their families, basically because their overall costs will go down, even with a small increase in taxes. Scandinavians have known this for years. That's why they are the happiest people on earth. Denmark, Finland, Norway, they keep bouncing around in the top 10 on the most happiest countries on earth, according to the UN World Happiness Report. Another reason why they're happy is because they have a culture of wanting to take care of everyone in their society, by everyone agreeing to pay a little more in taxes to help everyone, right? Well, let's take a detailed view of what's going on here. Look, it should be obvious to all Americans by now that since the 80s, Republican politicians only create and pass legislation that benefits corporations in the 1%. Check out the Republican-sponsored 2019 corporate tax cut giveaway as evidence of that, right? Where 85% of the benefits of that tax cut went to corporations in the 1%. Basically, whoever pays for a Republican election or re-election campaign, that's who they represent. The donor class, not their constituents in their districts. Look at the record, right? Now keep that in mind as I proceed. Not many people know this, but the UN creates a World Happiness Report every year that shows the happiness ranking of all countries in the world. And the Legatum Institute produces a similar report based on prosperity around the world. Now, Republican politicians are really aware of these reports, and they scare the hell out of them because their constituents might read them and figure out what the Republicans are selling as a scam. Here's a picture of those two reports profiling the rankings of all countries on Earth. Okay? Have a look where the United States ranks, and have a look where the Scandinavian countries rank. Look, one's happiness in life is based on many different things, right? Exploring nature, enjoying your family, going out to dinner with your friends, engaging with pets, animals, and having good health. These are typical things that make people happy, right? However, if a worker anywhere in the world can't provide for his or own family's basic needs and has to struggle daily as a result, no amount of nature, family connections, or good health will bring them any happiness. Being able to afford the basic needs in your life at every stage of your life so you can lead a dignified life is the underground floor for true happiness. That's in my opinion. So what do I mean by living a dignified life? Well, in addition to being able to pay for the obvious things like electricity, food, and housing, there are a lot of other conditions that are required to live a quality life. Like taking time off for the birth of a child, staying home when you or a family member gets sick, providing for your retirement, educating your children, taking care of your elderly parents, and taking some vacation once in a while to relax. All these involve costs. Now, being able to afford these costs is critical to achieving personal happiness in life, don't you think? Well, guess what? The Scandinavian countries, through the social democratic governments, have been able to achieve the highest happiness and prosperity rankings in the world by providing for most, if not all, of the life needs of their citizens through their tax system. That's how it's structured. And yeah, the taxes are higher than in America because they pay for everything I just mentioned, right? Kind of like how subscriptions work a little bit, right? As you pay in advance of your needs. And then those Scandinavian countries, to a great extent, corporate greed is not allowed to interfere with the social protections for the citizens in those countries. You know, basically, the whole mindset's different in the Scandinavian countries. Providing for the common good is what reigns supreme in countries like Finland, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. I'm going to be quoting now from a New York Times article about life in Denmark. There's a link to the full article in the show description. And I quote, Danes pay an extra 19 cents of every dollar in taxes compared with Americans. But for that, they get free healthcare, free education from kindergarten through college, subsidized high-quality preschool, a very strong social safety net, and very low levels of poverty, homelessness, crime, and inequality. And on average, Danes live about 2 years longer than Americans. The article continues. A Big Mac, flipped by $22 an hour workers, isn't even that much more expensive than an American one. Big Mac prices vary by outlet, but spot pricing suggests that one might cost about 27 cents more on average in Denmark than in the United States. That 27 cents is the price of dignity. End of quote. Now check out this short video clip from the Jimmy Dore Show.
CNN actually sent a reporter to Denmark to check it out. And this is what he found out.
McDonald's is used in the debate over minimum wage. In Denmark, there is no minimum wage. But because of union negotiations, people who work at McDonald's here make almost $20 an hour. And even though things are very costly in Denmark, this Big Mac costs less than in the United States.
Their $20 an hour wage at McDonald's, that is not mandated by the government through a minimum wage. That is negotiated by strong unions, just as Hank said. Strong unions. So you don't have to do that.
And when the economy serves everybody, when everybody gets to participate in the profits, it means that the people who sweep the floors should be paid an amount of money that they can use to live off of. It's not a complicated or a radical idea at all.
Well, it means that if you're making a profit, maybe you share some of that profit with the people who actually generate that profit for you, right? So that's what that, and turns out everybody can make money.
Yeah.
Somebody can make a living wage selling hamburgers, working at a restaurant, and the person who owns the restaurant also makes money. Right now in America, we have the people who own the restaurants making lots of money, and the people who work there are poverty wage. That's what we have in America.
The video clip was showing how a social democracy works in Denmark, but the benefits that a social democratic system provides through its tax structure are replicated throughout the Scandinavian countries in various degrees. And like you saw in the UN report, results in the happiest people on earth. Okay, so now back to Republican scare tactics that say happiness in Scandinavia is just fake news, or point out how the middle class hates being burdened by paying those high taxes, okay? Look, Republicans and many corporate Democrats think of American workers only as a means to an end, a tool to enrich their donors, the corporations who fund their elections. So except for progressive Democrats, most American politicians have to find ways to get you to vote for them without actually giving you anything in return to improve your life. The last thing they want is for their constituents to be happy by achieving some economic justice in their life. For example, they can't stand the unionization effort now going on in Alabama with Amazon. Okay, while we're talking about labor unions and what they can achieve for their members, let's have a look at the labor union movement in Sweden. The unionization rate in Sweden is more than 85% of the workforce. So pretty much most Swedes enjoy the benefits of collective bargaining. Check out these benefits that Swedish labor unions have bargained for and have achieved for their members. I'll read them off. Free medical coverage to all from cradle to grave. Free tuition for university students. Subsidized childcare. Paid parental leave, 13 months leave at 80% pay. Extensive unemployment benefits, as well as job training and retraining programs. Generous old age pensions, provision for disabled people, and affordable care for the elderly. Remember, when I use the word free, I'm talking about at the point of service, because all these programs have been paid for through the tax system. So I hope you can understand now why Scandinavian citizens like Swedes are the happiest people in the world. I would be too. Remember, it's those strong labor unions through collective bargaining that provide huge economic benefits for their worker members, which result in high levels of happiness. And what do we have here in America? It's the total opposite. Instead of strong labor unions, which would create happy workers, we have strong corporations, C corporations, designed to maximize profits, typically at the expense of their workers. That's why so many working class Americans in 2020 live paycheck to paycheck, even before the pandemic. And they made so little money, they have to avail themselves of government programs just to survive. And if corporate dominance in America wasn't bad enough, corporations and their political friends have to add propaganda to the equation as well. This is what I mean. Republican politicians and corporate Democrats have taken advantage of the fact that most Americans aren't that familiar with life in European and Scandinavian countries. And they use that to their advantage. Over the last 40 years, in addition to referring to those countries as socialist countries with high taxes, Republicans have used every opportunity to drum into our heads that America is the greatest country on earth. Now, why would they do that? Well, let's take healthcare, for example. Generally speaking, the U.S. has the worst healthcare system out of all of the advanced countries on earth in terms of complexity, outcomes, and cost. But many poorly educated or uneducated American patients who use the healthcare system in this country, they think like this. Well, our American healthcare system really sucks. But since we are the greatest country on earth, then healthcare in other countries must be even worse than ours. Okay? That's how they think. I guarantee you, that's the profit before people logic our corporate-friendly politicians want us to follow. Okay, so what's the takeaway from the show today? You know, when I was a child, I'll never forget a painting I saw once. It's called Freedom from Want by Norman Rockwell. Have a look at it. This is a family gathered around a Thanksgiving feast. In the center of the painting is a beautiful roast turkey. But it's not the food. It's the focus of the painting. It's all about the faces. Every one of them is glowing, happy, and content. This is what freedom from want really means. Being content and joyful. And that feeling is brought about by no longer being bound by the burden of want, of making ends meet, of meeting your life's basic needs. After your basic needs in life are provided for, you can move on to enjoy your family, your lives, find fulfillment before you pass away. This was the American dream. Actually worked and existed for about 2.5 brief decades after World War II. And you know, it was a time when even many Republicans supported strong middle class because they supported labor unions, along with the Democrats. Don't believe me? Have a look at this comparison poster from 1956. We can bring the American dream back and live just like the happiest people on earth do, the citizens of Scandinavian countries. We just have to stop allowing ourselves to believe propaganda and start voting for politicians that puts our interests, those of the working class, ahead of those of C corporations and the 1%. What else? Well, how about support the labor movement or get involved in politics at any level? Learn to recognize propaganda, which is really important these days. Educate yourself about the benefits of social democracies and democratic socialism so you can achieve some level of happiness. If not for yourself, then at least fight for a brighter future for your children. That's the show for today. If you happen to like the topics I present on this show, please consider subscribing. In any event, have a blessed day, and remember, you deserve the government you vote for.